All right, welcome to the Bruce Poppy Show. Today, my guest is Lee Milteer. She's an entrepreneur. She's a best-selling author, business mentor, someone who's trained more than 2 million people on success and personal development worldwide. She's written, I think, close to 20 books and appeared on 1,500 different TV and radio stations around the world. And one of her books is titled Success is an Inside Job. And that really caught my idea. That really resonates with me. So let's start right there with that title. The first question I would ask is, why do so many people know what to do to succeed or to get a different outcome in their life, but they don't do it?
Oh, wow. What a deep question. Thank you for asking that. Why don't they do it? Primarily, everything is about our self-image, Bruce. And by the way, thank you so much for having me on. Everything is about our self-image, and our self-image, as you know, because you're a great studier of human potential, uh, our self-image was determined by the time we were 5 to 7 years old. And whatever kind of information we got during those times, whether it was by society, school, church, parents, family, whatever, a lot of that information, it was so wrong and so self-destructive that, particularly as a woman, I can tell you this, girls should be this or that or the other. And what happens is people have all these ambitions and excitement and they want to do these things, but their self-image isn't actually queued up to see themselves actually do it. And the slightest little bit of pushback, hiccups, things aren't going their way, they start having this internal doubt of, well, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe I just don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm not working hard enough. And what they don't really realize is that most of our adult life, we actually have to spend time erasing that negative image that was put on us by people. And I'll be generous here, okay? That didn't really mean
Right.
to destroy our hopes and dreams and optimism, because they also were brought up in environments that were not conducive to encouraging people to go for their dreams. That just because you fail once, that's not the whole story. That's not the end of the story, particularly. And it's
That's usually the
proven.
starting point of the story.
Absolutely. And people are oblivious of people who do professional athletics and that they have to practice 10,000 times to be able to perfect their craft so well. And our society is this instant success kind of thing. I think social media, and let me be very sarcastic here, influencers
Yeah.
make it look like you just tuned in and you did this and that and the other. They don't realize there's 12 people behind you doing the scenery, writing the script, doing all this stuff to make you look good. Whereas people like you and I, who sort of got raised by the bootstraps and came up by ourselves a lot and have done things ourselves, realize that failure is actually just information on what you need to shift to do it better. So the our society, the other thing I want to push our audience to accept is society really does make all of us believe that all power is outside of ourselves.
Right.
All power is actually inside of ourselves. And when I wrote the book, Success is an Inside Job, by the way, I have to share this little story with you. The original book was called uh, Feel and Think, Feel and Become Rich.
Kind of a
And
play on the old Norman Vincent Peale Think and Grow Rich.
right. And I'm very naive, and I hired this sort of writing coach, and he charged me a lot of money. I'm very naive at the beginning of this. And he gave me the title, and of course I got sued with 90 other people within like the first 6 weeks
Yeah.
of, problems with the copyright thing. So what I did is I took the book and I sent it to a bunch of people, and I asked them to read the book and tell me the titles they thought of. And one of the titles came back from actually one of my assistants, who said, Success is an Inside Job. And I went, that's exactly what this book should have always been titled. Now it's in its 12th printing as Success is an Inside Job. And, Feel and Grow Rich sort of, is way in the past of my life. But the secret of feel, we must feel successful to energetically vibrate that energy which other people feel. And again, our society believes it's your clothes, it's your car, it's the house, it's your job, it's all these titles, these external things. Those are nice, but they're temporary.
Yep.
Really successful people understand that there are going to be all kinds of challenges in our life that are going to knock you down. And I have had a slew of them. It's just that I'm so determined and so focused on this is my only talent. I have to keep going and using this talent no matter what happens. So it's not like I'm going to go become a nurse or do something else. I mean, I'm a good communicator. I know how to write. I know how to talk. And, you know, success is really because I wasn't just at the right place at the right time. It was because I really fought through a lot of battles to get on the right stages, to get in the right companies, to get into places that I could share with people, which are really universal truths. But education in particular has made people become conformist and that, memorize information and then you'll pass the test. Well, this is useless
Yeah.
because real life isn't about
No.
memorizing information to pass the test.
Yep.
The test is going to be determined by what mentally you're thinking, what physically you're doing, what emotionally, how much faith you and confidence you have in yourself, and things like that.
So when you started off, you're saying that it's the image, right? The success is an inside job. It's our self-image, and a lot of the people in our lives, unknowingly, it wasn't a nefarious type of intentional thing to put limitations on you. So, in your background, and when we talked before we started the show, you'd mentioned about your dad and stuff. So, was there that type of thing in your family, history that you had to overcome? Or were they more of the, encouragement, hey, you can do anything type, so did you have to overcome those limitations that were put on you by, family and or early on when you started in society?
Oh, I had to overcome huge problems. Well, I grew up on a ranch farm a mile and a half from the nearest secondary road, dirt lane. My parents on both sides had been farmer ranchers as far back as we could tell. My mother believed that females had their place.
Right.
And my father was more freedom kind of guy, but he was also still incredibly old fashioned and girls needed to do certain things and boys needed to do the other things. But from 3 years old, he sort of noticed that I wasn't interested in dolls and in dressing up, that I really wanted BB guns, red wagons, and a pony. And he suddenly realized that, and by the way, when you grow up on a ranch, Bruce, they're looking for help. They're
Yeah.
looking for, boots on the ground.
Right.
And
slave labor.
Slave labor. And I was boots on the ground from about 5 years old. I started taking care of the horses and I followed my father everywhere. And I had his tell it like it is attitude. And he encourage me. And when my mother always said, oh, she has to wear a dress, he used to jokingly say, oh, don't make her wear a dress. She'll have to wear a dress when she's an adult. Let her wear her pants and, that. And I used to laugh to myself like, no, you're not going to see me in dresses, honey. That's not going to happen. And so he was very good. He was challenging, but my entire family was very much about women's places and don't be outspoken and things like that. And I was definitely outspoken. And after a while, he actually started just treating me like one of the boys because I could drive. He taught me to shoot, drive tractors, to physically fight. One of the greatest things he taught me, Bruce, was something most women are not taught and should be, is that you never go into a place without knowing, scanning the place, looking for danger and where the exit is. He taught me to use my intuition and he gave me all the physical things to do. But and this is one of the greatest things he taught me was he used to say, never be average. And if everybody else is going in one direction, your butt should be going in the other direction. And that you don't have to ever follow the crowd unless it feels right. So he gave me something that most little girls didn't get. And secretly, he was very pleased that I was such a rebel.
Mhm.
And I mean, he was very pleased. Like, if I got bullied really bad because I was really tiny in high school and got beat up by these two really huge gals constantly. And he just said, okay, well, we're going to stop that. Since the principal won't do anything about it, I'm going to teach you to really fight. And I'm going to teach you to hurt them. Because after you hurt them, they're never going to mess with you again. So we actually planned the whole thing out. We knew they were going to attack me. We had a plan. And I actually positioned myself in front of the principal's office for him to see the whole thing. So when they attacked me, I actually fought back in such a way that they never, ever mess with me again. So strategically, I was very fortunate to have this man as my father, even though there were a lot of other complications with that, that I'm free to just be myself. And so I've always been an entrepreneur. I had my first business at 12 years old. I had 37 people working for me on all the ranches and farms doing uh, ranch and farm work. And my father just thought that was very natural, that you're supposed to be self-employed at 12 years old.
Right. Wow. I mean, I mean, so the key thing that you're saying there is that he instead not to be average, and that stuck with you, and and instilled in you the ability and the desire, to fight back. And as we talk about, success, and it's so important that a lot of people get confused, or they got this image of what success is supposed to be, or what success is, in societies today. Like as most people think, and we were programmed here, in our current situation, is that they equate money or your bank account with success, and that is really a false bar. So
Yes.
in your mind, how you've developed and all your writing and the people that you've helped, all over the world, 2 million plus people, what is the definition of success you try to instill in people?
Freedom. Freedom. The freedom to use your skills and abilities in the way that is natural for you. Freedom, I would never have made it in any kind of corporate world. By the way, I can go speak to the corporate people, and I have done that. I have huge, clients, Walt Disney, NASA, Ford Global, all those kind of great people. But it's interesting that I'm such a rebel. I can go in and talk to them, but I could never fit in that environment. I'm very much an entrepreneur. And the freedom of using your skills and abilities and talents that are natural to you. It is my nature to stand up for myself. It is my nature to communicate and say what I think. And so my freedom to me has been that I live my life my way. I believe that that's what I was born to do. I wasn't born to be in cubicles.
Mhm.
And one of the sad things I see today is, as a business coach, is people who are actually trapped in positions because of the expensive car, the expensive house, and all those accoutrements, that they can't actually, even if they want to be self-employed, they're so afraid of, what will I lose? What will the neighbors think? What will my parents think? Things like that. Um, I can honestly tell you that when I decided to become a professional speaker, I starved for 5 hard years. And I mean, my joke was I dated for food. I mean, I swear to God, that, I was,
That's
I,
hilarious.
I mean, my joke was, yeah,
But it
we
was
can go to
probably some truth in that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just like I actually just really starved. I remember getting down to $23 in my checking account and thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to get a job and this is gonna be just terrible. The only job I've ever actually had is I was a rock and roll disc jockey
Oh,
when
wow.
I in high school, I was working at Tasty Freeze, one of those
Yeah.
little places. And this guy came up and he was getting food and he was flirting with me and I'm 17 and he said, "Oh, by the way, there's this job opening in Norfolk, Virginia at WNR FM that's got an all girls radio station and you should apply for it." And I'm telling you, within 2 days, I'm still in high school. And I skipped school because I did a lot of that. And I applied for the job. I kind of fibbed and said I was 19 and out
Right.
of school. And I got a full-time adult job in high school as a rock and roll disc jockey. And then I went into sales after that because that's where my real talent was. Because my father said no to everything. And I had learned at a very young age to debate and to give him reasons why I should do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And he used to call me a Philadelphia lawyer. And I actually considered being a lawyer because my grandfather was a lawyer, but that wasn't meant to be. We didn't have any money for that.
Right.
So anyway, my whole life was just what's the problem with going for what you want? The worst thing that can happen is you don't get there, but you get to try again. And I do believe that we're born with all these great talents and abilities that die within us because society doesn't support us or it doesn't happen fast enough. And I was just prepared when I became a professional speaker that this is my talent. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I will entertain you with my entire prep for becoming a professional speaker because I was in commercial real estate when I decided to do that. And I didn't like commercial real estate at all. And I finally sold something. So I had a little bit of money and I thought, oh, I can break free from this drudgery that I don't like doing. And I went to a printer shop and had cards that said Lee Milteer, professional speaker. And off I went. And
Before you
people
even
go,
had any gig or anybody, inquiring about you. So you went ahead and thought forethought, like I've heard, was it was Adam Sandler or Jim Carrey, say, hey, wrote themselves $1 million check,
Jim
that's,
Carrey,
yeah.
Jim Carrey.
So there's a lot of stuff in the news about him. We're not going to go into that today.
No, no, oh,
Uh,
I don't know. I don't
but
know
I mean,
about all
just the concept of, having that dream and then seeing it and then, right, living as if, right. It seems that though that
yeah,
the stuff you're talking about is that you had a goal in mind. You didn't have any skills. You didn't have any references. You didn't have any experience, but yet you still took a step and did some action to be
I
able to
did.
move that thing forward. And that was probably what you think that made a big difference in how you succeeded and moved forward with your entire career?
It's been my life to do that every single time. Dan Kennedy always talks about jump to where you want to go. And I didn't know Dan Kennedy at the time, but I do know that people, the universe or God or however you believe in that gives you hints all the time about you that most of us can't see. So when I was in sales, one of the things I used to get, Bruce, was people would say, "Wow, you should be a professional speaker. You're really good at explaining and talking and communicating." And I used to think that's hilarious. One, I didn't even know what a professional speaker was in the beginning. And once I got that message enough, I thought, huh. So I went to the local community college and I actually said to them, "I'm really good at sales, and you have these courses that are not credited. And so, how about if I teach for women a course on selling?" And I just then went and wrote this course that I just made up of what I did that worked so well because I can sell,
Hmm.
because I believe in what I sell. I will not sell anything I don't believe in. And so after I got that under my belt, I went, well, I'm just going to print up these cards and I'm going to go to the other real estate companies in my Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Virginia area. And I'm going to offer my services. And my big price was $300 for the day, which I was like, you know, wow, I didn't know what to charge. And people hired me. And I thought, okay. And then I went and tried with other people to hire me. And my big break came because I took the $300 I made and I did an ad in the local paper of professional speaker, and nothing happened. And I was crushed, but kept going, starving, but kept going. And then one day out of the blue, this woman calls me and she said, I saw your ad on the very first day that I got this job at AT&T. And she said, I have it in this folder. I'd like you to come in and talk to me about what you could do for AT&T. We're having big events in your area. And so I went there and she said, well, what would you charge? And I didn't know what to charge, but I blurted out something like $500. And she immediately got turned off. And she said, well, we're really looking for a more experienced speaker than a five. And I said, oh, no, you misunderstood. I meant a $500 deposit.
So you were
And
able to pivot right on the point, thinking,
I'm
oh,
very, yeah.
I
And
bid
so
too low.
So I got the gig, spoke in front of 1,000 AT&T people, which launched my career because 80 of those people hired me to go around the United States and speak to their groups. And then Bell Canada got me. And then I did public seminars for 6 straight years, which was slave labor, honest to God. Nine to four by myself on a stage of anywhere from 500 to 1,000 women. And 3 cities a week, 100 cities a year for 6 years.
Wow.
And so what that did, Bruce, was make me a real pro. No matter what happened, I can deal with it.
Right.
And
You
including,
put in the reps. You did the reps because I talk
did more
about
than
all the time.
10,000.
You got to do the reps. You got to, it might suck. It might not feel right. You might think you're the worst thing that's ever happened. But if you continue to do those reps, so that was your, training ground where you broke your teeth into the speaking realm.
But the real winner for me was in those audiences were all these huge names of employees, and they'd go back and go, we have to hire Lee Milteer. She is hilarious and what a great seminar. It was fat. We laughed all day, learned all this great stuff, and she seemed to be having a ball doing it. And I did.
I forgot to mute my phone.
Okay, so the other thing is the of self-image is we have to see an image that we want and build towards it and realize it is going to take time. It's going to take effort, but that will be rewarded. All effort is rewarded.
Absolutely. And so the steps that I'm, picking up, seeing a pattern in your situation is you had, a good upbringing, you got some seeds that were planted in you, but you've always been an outside the box person and willing to go forward and do things, even though you didn't know or have all the answers. So there's a lot of people out there watching this, may feel stuck, right? They may have some of those. One of the things you said earlier that I want to come back to is that the dreams that we are born with and that God gives us have been stolen or buried, or, we think we can't because of external circumstances. So what kind of advice would you give somebody who just feels stuck? They have some vision in there, but they just don't see themselves, moving into that space?
Well, one sort of attitude I have is this is my life. And that if I don't go in the direction of what I truly want, then I won't get it. Then I'm, as my father used to jokingly say, honey, you better get a career or become self-employed because you're a terrible wife material. And the joke, I mean, these little jokes of I felt like if I don't step forward and do what I want, even if I do it badly, at least I'm going in the direction I want because I want a wild, wonderful life. I want it. I don't want to be stuck and become old wishing I had done things like so many people do, and they let the opportunities pass them by. One of my greatest talents, Bruce, is actually as opportunities float by, I go for them. I don't wait for them to come to me. I make movement towards them, whether it's in my imagination and then look for the opportunity. I found, I will also tell you this quickly. When I was 16 years old, I was such a problem in high school because every time they asked questions um, about, I mean, they tried to teach us things, I would say, how is this going to let me make money in the future? I didn't use the word monetize and leverage and words like that, but I kept saying to the teachers, I'm not quite sure what you're teaching me is actually preparing me for something. Because I lived in the guidance counselor office constantly going, there's 10 things you say women can do. I'm not going to do any of these things. I got to do something else. And they were befuddled. So that allowed me to those kind of questions of how am I going to learn? They stuck me in, they had a school meeting about Lee Milteer, and they stuck me in the library as a helper. The second day I was there, this man came into the library, donated, he was retiring, a huge group of books that he wanted to get rid of. I, as the new grunt worker, got to do all those books. I pulled out of that box Think and Grow Rich, Psycho-Cybernetics, and The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol, which I read at 16 years old. And this was my ticket to freedom because this was all about if the mind can imagine it, it can have it kind of mindset. And since I wasn't going to do the normal go to college route because we didn't have the money for
Hmm.
that, and I was told right up front we didn't have the money for that, those books gave me the power to use my mind in a way that no one in school or my parents or anyone around me told me. And particularly the book, The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol, about how people imagined their future and went towards it and it came true. And I hung on to this like a lifeline, like you cannot imagine. And today, I still hang on to the lifeline we must understand is that whatever we imagine and we see clearly and we feel and live as if that is going to bring all of those opportunities to me. And I have 100 stories to prove that.
Right.
So it's not that I have, by the way, I have a honorary doctorate degree with, you know, like 6 months of college. So,
Perfect.
which was my kind of degree.
Right.
So um, I'm not unusual. I'm just so focused, and anybody can have that.
Right. And that's what, we need to portray is that this is available. And some of the story, the way we've laid this out, I want to make sure that we don't, that we make sure that you've had setbacks, right? Things weren't always puppy dogs and rainbows for Lee Milteer, right? So when you were, and people out there, similar things, they feeling stuck, they take a step forward and then they get slapped in the face or they get their punched in the mouth or something. And then they say, oh, maybe this isn't for me. I'm sure you've had those type of situations. So what advice or how did you personally go through those setbacks and be able to come back stronger than when you went in?
Well, on a very brief note, when I was 23, I married the love of my life. We
Well, didn't your
were,
dad say you weren't going to be good wife material?
which was pretty much true. But anyway, I got married. We were photographers. We traveled all over the world doing landscape photography and stuff like that. He decided he wanted to build a restaurant in an area that other people weren't happy he was going to do that. And the bottom line was he got murdered on Christmas Eve
Oh
at our
no.
house. And I happened to had done the Rolling Stones concert, and I was in a dark room off premise from my house. Had I been there, I would have also been murdered. So the
Wow.
police said, so for the next year, I could hardly get out of bed. I went down to something like 97 pounds. I couldn't eat, I couldn't function. And what happened to me at that moment was this complete life shift of we were, going along. We had only been married a short time. We were very happy together. And then he gets murdered and everything, there was no money. But what I did was, when I pulled myself together, I was 3 blocks from a library. And every day, the only thing I could force myself to do was to walk to the library and get into the library and just wander around. And what I found was self-help books. And the number of books that I read every day, I mean, I just read and read and read and read, and the list is very long. I reread all the books I just mentioned. But from that moment on, there was just this determination of, I'm all alone. I don't have any money. I have to figure out what to do with myself. I know I'm not really suitable to go work for a job, and I'm going to figure it out. And the advice that I would give people is go inside and really find that true, deep spirit within you. And let that spirit know that you love yourself, and really ask yourself, if I only had a really short time to live, what would I do? If I knew that this was going to all disappear in a short time, and that I really wanted to go for things in my life, just go for it. And when you go for it, expect that the universe, God, is going to open the step for you. And so my belief is, if I am confused, if I just take a step, by taking that step and that action, it opens up other doors. And a lot of people wait to be motivated. I don't wait to be motivated. I take action, and then I get motivated.
Right. That's one of the things, that the key mindset shifts that a lot of people get stuck in. Well, I don't feel like doing it. I got to wait. I got to get inspired or do something. No, it's really actually the opposite. If you take the steps, then the things will come.
Yes.
So that's, this kind of leads right into the next thing. So one of the things that's different that I've noticed about you, and the way that you bring forward the messaging of personal development and growth, is there's a huge spiritual aspect and intuition type stuff that is weaved in, where you're not just a positive mental attitude, think it and make it happen, all this, but there's a deeper sense of the intuition, the spiritual aspect to success. So tell me about how that, and it probably came about from the story you just told me, but how has that changed the things and the way that you present things and interact with some of your clients, and as you write books and work to help people out?
When I was a child, again, we're in the middle of nowhere. I spent a great deal of time by myself on horses and animals. Animals have been very beneficial for me in my life. And we had like 12 dogs because we lived in the middle of nowhere, and I always was bringing dogs home. But I developed a connection to nature, and whether you want to call nature God, but somehow I was alone so much. There was an inner feeling that I was supposed to do something with my life, that I had been born to do something, and that I was very connected to this spirit. And it wasn't religious at all. And not that we didn't go to church. We went to the Methodist Church in Chuckytuck, Virginia. And I used to question a lot of what was being taught in that. But my inner intuition used to be so accurate that my father, one of the ways he helped with that was, every night when we sat down for dinner, he would always say, I have problems I want you to solve. And so he would give me a problem that was a real problem on the ranch or the farm or with animals or whatever. And he said, and what would you do? So he stimulated me thinking about situations at very young ages, and ask, what would I do? And I started realizing there was a voice inside of me that was actually answering that far smarter than I was. And so my intuition is incredibly strong. I can feel instantly when there's danger. My body also, I listen to my body. And when you grow up around animals and in nature, you have to listen to your body, because there's no expert whispering to you, do this, do that, do the other. especially if there's an animal in danger or hurt or something. You have to step up and do something. And I learned that if I just follow those nudges, so to speak, that it worked out. And so I could, if someone came up to the ranch or farm that was not good, I could feel it. And I honored those feelings, which, by the way, as a professional photographer, that saved my life many times traveling around the world, getting out of very dangerous situations that I could spend hours telling you crazy stories. But I know that if I feel like this person is not honest or there's, a bad intent, I know immediately remove myself,
Right.
get out of the situation. Don't be polite. Don't follow the rules. Get the hell out of Dodge, so to speak.
Sure. And how can people tell the difference between an intuition feeling like you're explaining here, or the false mask fear that they're interpreting as, they're fearful about doing something. They're thinking, oh, my gut's telling me not to do this, so that's my intuition, but it's really a fear-based decision rather than a true intuition. How can people tell the difference?
A few years ago, I wrote a program called The New Common Sense, How to Use Your Intuition. And one of the things I always tell people is pay attention to the head, the heart, and the gut. And that if all three things don't line up, wait for it to line up. And so that's the number one question people always ask. And I always tell them, you have a lot of programming in you about fear, and that you really have to ask yourself, particularly your gut, like I'll actually touch my heart and my belly and ask myself, is this true? I've also learned to do things most people won't learn to do, which is muscle test using kinesiology. I use a lot of body muscle testing. I actually ask myself, is my gut on board with this? Does my stomach feel, my head may be saying a program thing, like you don't have a chance here. But if my heart and my gut are very much on, well, let's go for it anyway, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And just try little things at first. Like I play games all the time. I'm in hotels all the time. So you're at the line of the elevators. One of my favorite games is for elevators. Which one's going to come first? Without looking at the numbers, because there's no downside if I'm not
Sure.
right. And the phone will ring. Now, who answers the phone anymore? But anyway, when it did ring and you answered it, I would actually, before I answered, say, "Oh, who's that? Is that somebody I know?" So I know things before I know things. And the more you actually give yourself permission to use your intuition, the stronger it gets. Now, I'm not betting a lot of money on the horses.
Right.
I'm not throwing money
I was
away.
going to say, can you tell me some winning lottery numbers or something?
Look,
That's not how this works at all. No.
I'm working on that. But mainly it's all about, what is your spirit talking to you? And if you simply put your hands on your chest and just calm and breathe and just, I'm allowing my spirit to actually talk to me, not my control brain, not my fear-based stuff, but just, I always say to myself, I am safe. I am safe. I can hear a true message. And sometimes I actually say, I'm not ready to make a decision. So you and I have sat in rooms where there's salespeople on stage and they're doing and I know how to do this. It's forcing people into a fear-based thing. If you don't buy it today, it's going to double in price tomorrow and all that kind of stuff. I'm always going, dude, you can't push me into buying, because I happen to know I can come back in a week from now and get that same price.
Right. Yeah. They use that scarcity mindset situation to get people to act, and that's it's not authentic.
No, it's not.
And that's one of the things that I really pride and try to push myself to do is be as authentic as I possibly can.
Yes.
I don't pretend to have all the answers. But there's things, and you kind of led right into my next question, was how can we strengthen that inner voice? And you said you play these little games with yourself. And you can get quiet. That's another thing. Put down the phone, turn off the TV, and get away from technology. Go outside. You talked a lot about nature. So I'm guessing those are the types of things that people can do, actual small steps or reps that you can implement to be able to build that inner voice.
Absolutely. I love my cell phones because it comes in handy with traveling and things like that. But what I don't like about the cell phone is that it has completely captured an entire generation. Just yesterday, Bruce, I'm driving out of my neighborhood and I live in Virginia Beach, and there's this beautiful young 19, 20-year-old girl, and she just looking at the phone, not watching traffic. If I hadn't been paying attention to her, she'd have actually walked right into my car. It's almost as if instinct of survival instinct has been overridden by this addiction of being seen and responding. See, this is all external stuff.
Yep.
And it's hurting people so badly because a lot of people, particularly in politics, which we won't go into, but in politics, are actually just listening to the media spout out stuff as if there wasn't an agenda behind that. And they have no ability to discern energetically someone being authentic and truthful versus the agenda. And so I beg people to, for instance, one of the things I do for a living is I give vision quests, and we do them in Sedona and different places around the world. I do them in Virginia Beach, where it's like 3 days of no technology. You're not allowed to have your phone. I mean, if it was an emergency, of course, but that you are supposed to actually get in touch with yourself again. How can you listen to that small inner voice, which doesn't scream, which doesn't make you afraid? See, whenever you're talking to yourself and you feel afraid, that's program stuff. That's not intuition. Intuition doesn't talk you into doing stupid stuff.
Right.
It actually, and it's soft. And so I'm always asking people to stop giving your power away to the external world, that this is where you're making decisions from instead of this quiet knowing. So I spend every morning, I get up because of growing up on the ranch. We get up at 4 every day, 4 a.m. And I still pretty much get up very, very early. I spend at least 2 hours by myself, no phone, no computer, nothing, but I do primarily spiritual reading or metaphysical reading or other readings that inspire me. I journal every day. I do this thing called scripting, which I talk about in the book we just talked about. And then I'm actually planning for my future pretty much 5 years ahead of time and I write my Lee Milteer story out as if it has already happened. And what happens is the world, because I focus in it, what you focus on, you attract. And so I'm very proactive about attracting the life and the lifestyle that I want for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure what the question is. I'm just
No,
talking.
it was about how we developed that inner voice, and you're exactly correct. Taking that time away from technology and looking inward, because as the name of the show is in the book that we mentioned in the beginning, success is the inside job.
Right.
And if you get some of the inside stuff working for you, and like you'd mentioned, where your focus goes, and Tony Robbins says it all the time, where focus goes, energy flows. Not just him, but many other people. And just a quick example of that, that pops into my head all the time. If you're looking to buy a new car, right, and you want to say, just pull something out of the air, a Jeep, right? You're looking for a Jeep. Now all of a sudden, every time you go out on the road, you're going to see Jeeps every flipping where. It's because you're focused on that. And the same process that happens in our subconscious and our conscious minds, when we focus on what we want, how our life we want it to be and live it, see it, visualize it. It's not daydreaming. The visualization aspect of building a life is way different than just daydreaming. So the visual that you make it so real, you can see it, you can taste it, you can smell it, you feel it. And it sounds woo-woo, but it's true. I've lived it too, and I'm in the process of living it now, that the universe will make stuff happen. You can create your own reality and you can manifest. And manifestation is not like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It's there's some science behind it for sure.
Yes, there's a lot of science.
And so if after all this time that you've spent working with people, entrepreneurs, businesses, and things like that, is there a common theme or a common excuse that people hide behind for not pursuing the life that they really want?
They're afraid they're going to fail. They're afraid they're going to fail, so they don't get started. They want something, but then they allow their chatter, fearful mind to talk them out of it. And they keep, and the other thing is, it's odd. People are waiting to be saved.
Ooh.
They think something externally is going to save them, or they think they're planning for the future as winning the lottery. Well, we all jokingly want to win the lottery. What fun that would be. And I've won some money in the lottery, but not enough to live on. And so I'm shocked at the people who are waiting to be saved. I have learned really hard, there's no one coming to save me. No one. And that if there's going to be some savings, Lee Milteer has to get her butt up and do it herself.
Right.
And it's not that I don't have support. It's just that I'm not thinking some miracle thing is going to happen. And there's just this underlying, there's also this lack of work ethic that a lot of people today look at very rich and successful people, and they think it's some instant manifestation of, I don't know, you just suddenly become famous. And the silliness of thinking that being famous is a life goal is insane, because whatever fame, if you really read biographies, it's not that fame doesn't have its place sometimes because of influence, but for the most part, a lot of people who've been very famous have been so burdened, and they have to hide, and they have to have all this security and all this extra stuff. And so all this extra money they earned is just for protection. So I don't see that as particularly a great goal to go for. One of the things I do is I speak for free, particularly to high schools and colleges, if they ask. And it's the hardest audience there is. I mean, high schoolers are very hard because
they know everything. They already know everything.
They know everything. And so I'm explaining to them like the reality of life about what you're seeking. And when I open up for questions, I'm shocked at some of the questions, such as, what kind of car do you drive? How much money do you make? And girls are asking, how can I get married so someone will take care of me?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I got a lot more to say than wow. I actually really tell them the truth. Like, girls, ladies, and they're not ladies quite yet, but girls, if you're waiting for some guy your age to suddenly come and save you so you can stay home and eat bonbons, so to speak, this is not going to work out for you. What happens if he runs off with another gal? I mean, how are you supposed to take care of yourself if you have children? And they don't want to hear this.
No.
And so now when the high schools and stuff call me, I'm saying, I'm going to show up, but I'm going to tell them the truth. And nobody can stop me from telling them the truth. So be careful for what you ask for, because I'm going to tell them the truth.
No, that's amazing. And we need to have the truth. That's the one thing that's missing in society today is truth. People want to have their ears tickled. I talk about a lot of times the microwave society, right? They want everything right now, rather than maybe eat healthy and exercise and all that. I don't need all that. I'll just go get me some Ozempic, some GLP-1, and then jack that stuff into me, and I will have the image that society is pounding into everybody's brain that they're supposed to look like this and fit in a box and blah blah. That's a topic for another show. But and I know you've not, when you came out of the box and the things you've done, you've made some adjustments, and you can use the term reinventing. And you've recently, I've from following you on social media, I know you've been on a little bit of a quest and doing some reinventing yourself.
Yes.
How is it that you see that needs to happen, and what does that process look like for people? Maybe they're wanting to do something different, they want to reinvent themselves. So if you give just some basic things, how did that come about for you? You decided you needed to do it, and then what was the actions that you took to be able to move that process or ball forward?
So I've been very fortunate in my life financially to run large coaching groups, entrepreneur large coaching groups. I ran Peak Performers with Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer for 10 years with really large groups. Then I ran with Adam Whitty, the Renegade Millionaire groups. I started groups of my own, Success Club, Alchemist Inner Circle, all these kind of things. And last summer, around July, I started waking up feeling like Groundhog Day every day. So I had this group that I had for 22 years called the Millionaire Smarts Group, which was me like writing a book every month. So my real money business has not only speaking and writing, but actually I have been a content provider for 22 years for all these other coaches around the world. I supply the content, which meant like writing a book every month. And I just started feeling tired of, I've had a ball doing it. I've made a lot of money, got on lots of great stages, done a lot of great things, but something else started calling me. It's time for a change. And to everyone's shock, last September, I gave everybody notice that I was ending all the groups, which meant I was ending all the money, and that I just wanted to take a sabbatical. I called it a walkabout. And what I did for 5 months was not work in the world. I wasn't on social media. I just dropped completely out. And I walked on the beach. I went to different places, and these were not vacation places. These were, I want to isolate myself enough so whatever my next adventure is coming completely a new me. I
Mm-hmm.
want to reinvent myself, and I've reinvented myself a lot. So I'm coming back from that. I could not tell you exactly how that's going to flesh out, but since I grew up poor, I saved a lot of money, and I have the ability to go a little while without having, I mean, I'm earning money, but you know what I mean, not
Sure.
the big money I was earning. But I was the one who cut off that spigot, because to jump to the next level, you have to be free of your old identity.
Mm.
And that
Say
is
that
a
again in English for those in the back.
okay. So the identity that I've had for 22 years was that I was a content provider. I led these big groups. I did all these things, had a ball doing it, made a lot of money. And I've written 17 books and 100 educational programs. I just thought, what is my next, what is my next adventure? Because in my life, I've had all kinds of great adventures. I used to be a rock and roll disc jockey. I was a professional photographer. I traveled around the world. I did a little real estate thing. And then I became the speaker. And then I became an author. And again, writing the first book, I was terrified, completely terrified. But I went on with it. But also, the universe always gives me hints when it's time for me to release one identity and start working on another. And I listened to that. And when people started saying, you should write books, I used to laugh and think that's hilarious. I could hardly get a term paper out in school.
Right.
And you're asking me to write a book. But a publisher kept taking me to lunch and saying, I know there's many books in you. I believe in you. And I will publish any book you write. And so I started writing books. And then I started doing national television. And so now, without spilling the beans, because I don't like to ever share what I'm going to do until I've done it, because I think you waste a little
Right.
of your creative energy doing that. I'm just saying I'm excited there's a new, I'm still going to use all my same talents because these are the only talents I have. Speaking, writing, communicating, that's it. Those are the talents. Whatever I do will have those talents involved, but I see them in a different way. So I just urge people to say to themselves every day, you know, I am the captain of my ship and I get to have adventures. And I'm not going to live a normal, everyday, boring life. I'm going to go for it. And so little hints are coming to me that are coming from other people that most people don't pay attention to, but I'm paying attention to. And I actually know one of my beliefs, which if you believe it, you can make it come true, is success always comes to me. It's not that I'm doing things, but it's because I'm doing things that the success of my next game or phase of my life is going to start coming to me.
Hmm.
And so, an interesting thing out of the blue on my Facebook in the last couple of days, two people have sent me AI memes of me.
Yeah. I saw the one this morning, the warrior princess
Warrior,
thing, warrior
warrior,
patriot.
warrior
Yeah.
archetype.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those are fun. That's fun. What does this mean? By the way, you can't see it, but there's a big picture of me dressed as a general that somebody sent to me. It was a big AI thing, and they sent it to me. And I thought, I know if you believe in past lives, I've definitely been a
Sure.
general in my life. I have very male energy, yet I'm very female. And so I'm not sure what that all means,
Right.
but we're going to have fun with it.
Right. So through this whole conversation, you've mentioned as we begin to bring this plane in for a landing, you've mentioned energy a lot of times. There's a lot
Yes.
of where focus goes, energy. All the different things, and energy and some of the spiritual aspects. And one of the things that I thought is cool as F that you have and that people can participate in is a course that you put together called the 5 types of energy. So
Yes.
tell us about the 5 types of energy, and we'll tell people how they can get involved in that.
Okay. So I am a big believer that everything is energy. So we have our life currency. And every day in your life, if you just think about it, you could almost write it down for yourself. I have a mental currency, a physical currency, an emotional currency, a spiritual currency, and a financial currency that I deal with regularly. So think about this. Every day in your life, the mental currency is going to determine how motivated and excited you are about life. What is the caliber of information that you are allowing, not only in your environment, but in your life? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What is being installed in your operating system, your
Right.
brain?
Yep.
Uh, that is so crucial. I no longer watch mainstream news at all. After many years, got rid of the newspaper. I avoid all these high activities of trying to bait you into being upset about something.
Yeah.
I've learned to just, whatever, and just let that pass by. So that's mentally, you have got to also control your self-talk. If you think about it like this, Bruce, an average person, over 80% of their thoughts on an average day is completely negative.
Right.
It's, I can't do this is terrible. So again, you're feeding the computer all this negative stuff. And then emotionally, how are you feeling emotionally? It is determined by what you're saying to yourself. For example, if someone says to me, because I do coaching, well, I'm so depressed. First thing I say is, well, then let's write down, if you're depressed, the last 30 minutes, let's write down all the things you're thinking about that now why you feel depressed. What you're thinking about, I can guarantee you, is the blueprint on why you're depressed, which is Nobody loves me. I'm fat. I'm not making enough money. There are no opportunities in life. I don't know what I want to do. Oh, who the hell isn't going to be depressed when you think like that? Versus being into gratitude with your emotion of, I'm so lucky. I have my eyes. I have everything's working. I have a house. As a professional photographer, I traveled all over the world, and I saw things that were so horrific of how people live, that Americans are so jaded and so arrogantly unaware of how lucky we all are,
Oh yeah.
that being grateful for life, being grateful that you have the freedom and the money and things that you have. So emotionally, how are you helping yourself by adding to yourself? Okay, so spiritually, on a spiritual level, whatever fills your heart with love, how be in the spiritual kind of mindset, do things, be in silence, be in nature, do things every day about that. Um, so it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial. And the other thing is financially is, how do you think about yourself? Do you think of yourself as poor? Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're poor, you're just going to get poor. If you automatically start thinking, oh, I'm very wealthy, in the sense of these are these are my talents, these are my abilities, these are my skills, these are my assets kind of mentality. And also financially, how are you investing in yourself? Like every day, I spend 2 hours reading, studying. I do all these kind of things, and not because someone forces me, because I wake up every morning and that's what I want to do,
Right.
because all of that has had great returns. So on a financial level, are you using your assets appropriately? I saw Dan Kennedy told me this the other day. I was shocked. He said that younger people are using DoorDash and spending 70% of their income each month on DoorDash, meaning food delivered to their house. What the hell? I mean, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I get some bread and peanut butter and jelly. Dude, save some money.
Right.
I
Or
mean,
go get it yourself if you're going to do that. But yeah, pay somebody extra because you're lazy. You don't want to get off the couch.
yeah, and that's the problem. It's like, so people are lazy mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially and spiritually. They're lazy. And yet they have this expectation that people owe them something. Nobody owes you anything. You have to create your destiny yourself. And so um, I have 5 little videos. They're 5 minutes each, talking about those 5 currencies. They're absolutely free. We normally charge $100. And I know you're going to give it to him, but I'm always prepared. So you can find me at leemilteer.com, and you 5typesofenergy.com. And you go there and it'll just one day at a time send you the videos. And you will also end up on my e-zine. I'm going to be very transparent. If you don't like it, you can get off, but it's called, with the title of another book I have, Activate Your Inner Power. So my e-zine comes out once a week, and it's all about people actually giving themselves permission to change their life for the better.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You got to give yourself permission. And I would push back a little bit. And I catch myself saying this all the time, that most people are in the situation they're in their life, maybe not because they're lazy. It's the programming. It's the thinking.
Yes,
And
yes.
the system that I use different terminology, but we're very aligned on a lot of the stuff. You know, it's about wearing a mask that has that false identity. We got to burn.
Right.
We got to burn the masks, right? And then you got to unlearn to unleash. I talk about unleashing excellence. That's my brand. You know, we have excellence in us, but it's not that it's missing. It's buried under a bunch of BS. So we got to burn the masks, and we got to unlearn to unleash. We got to reprogram the operating system, as he says it. You know, and then you got to put some action behind it. The third pillar of the system is forge. That's where you do the daily actions, the small micro reps, the little wins. That's going to build proof of your new identity. And then it's also going to build that self-trust, because a lot of people, they don't trust themselves. Our brains lie to us all the time when we say, like the New Year's resolution thing, right? I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
New Year, new me. I'm going to, be healthy and all this. And then 3 weeks in, the goal is too big, right? You're trying to bite off too much. So you take a small little rep, just instead of doing an hour workout a day, just do a 5-minute walk. Once you do 5 minutes, I'll bet you dollars to donuts, you're going to go 10, maybe 15. But just getting that motion, breaking that inertia, that's where a lot of people fall. So breaking the inertia right now is for you guys to go to 5typesofenergy.com. If you pull it, I'm going to have all the links in the description of the video. But and then milteer.com, that is a wealth of information on her website. It's very nice, very well put together. And so I'm super happy that we got to spend this time and I learned a little bit more about you, where you came from, and some of your thinking. And there's a lot of alignment and what we're doing. And so I appreciate you and your time, because I know how crazy busy you are. We've been trying to get this done since September of last year. We had it as scheduled, and then some things came up on my end, and then holidays and busyness and blah, blah. And then you were on your walkabout thing. And so I'm finally glad the universe put us together.
So let me I'm glad you brought this up about lazy. So I didn't quite develop that enough. What I meant to say is that our brains have become, that ultimately when you do brain study, the brain becomes lazy. It likes to hold on to its comfortable patterns.
Yep.
And so when you want to break out of that pattern, you do have to put some effort in there. And I've done programs on habits a lot, and we think we can change a habit like in a blink of an eye. It actually takes between 28 days and 30 some days to actually repeatedly behave in a certain way before that habit is broken, because the brain actually fights us.
Yep.
Because it's lazy in the sense of it only wants to burn so much energy. And when you change, it has to burn more energy. And if you read a little information about all brain studies, it talks about the brain is actually wants to keep the same patterns. And so that's why they call it where the brain wants to be lazy.
Yeah, no, exactly. The brain is wired for survival. Right. That's
Absolutely.
what the fear of flight, situation. It's wired for survival, and it leans towards comfort because it doesn't like to be challenged. And so most of the things that we battle aren't from outside of us. Like we said in the beginning, the name of the show and her book, Success is the Inside Job. So if you want to have success in your life, stop looking outside, start looking in, get connected. Develop that intuition like we talked about, take some steps that you might be scared. You might be wanting to pee your pants, so scared, but I guarantee you, when you take that first step, it's going to be glorious. And then the next step, you don't have to know the whole pattern, how the thing's going to flesh out, because Lee's, her life is that story of her taking step after step, not knowing what's going to hold the future, filled with tragedy and reinvention. So, you are an inspiration to a lot of people. And that I don't even consider this, but there is even that other aspect, other level of it, being a female, because in this speaker personal development type of world, it is a male dominated ish type of thing. So for you to have the success you've had and the things that you've come through, kudos to you for sure.
Well, thanks. My motto is, your point of power is this very moment in life. It's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday. There's always your point of power is right now. That's why they call it the present. And most people live so much in the past, and then they judge what happened in the past about trying to take steps in the present. And the future is just simply our imagination.
Yep.
So I'm a big believer. I was fortunate to work for the Walt Disney Organization for 12 years. And, that was a great organization to understand how imagination can actually be such a fabulous thing.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks again, Lee. Milteer.com is the website, and then links if you can't remember, but all the links will be in the description of the video. Milteer.com is the most important one. Everything else is already there. But I encourage everybody to go check it out and give Lee a follow. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Lee.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you guys next time. Bruce Poppy Show.